All right, let's do it live on a Thursday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio. Merely Bo and only Bo today on the program. So apparently the smallpox has reached out to both Z and now Gibby. Both have been hit hard by this. I am on quarantine on the east side of town. There are 6-foot walls keeping me away from the public. So that's where we are at this point. We wish them well. We hope they start feeling better. I was texting with Z earlier today. I asked him for a zest level because he is always full zest. Typically, this is a guy who on the zest meter runs at an 11. He was running at a 2. He said that was an improvement from a 0, so I guess baby steps along the way. So my comrades are wounded, they are ill, and they are fighting back. In the meantime, we press on. Jacksonville is here on Sunday in a game that is, quite frankly, folks, feeling like one you got to have, especially as you consider the limbo in which Trevor Lawrence's being in the game or not could be. If Lawrence doesn't play in this game, you're back home after 2 games on the road. Currently, the Browns are around a 3-point favorite on this one. This is one you got to take care of. The magic number here is 10. We've said that over and over again. At one point when you looked at this thing and you saw Chicago, you saw the Jets, you saw Cincinnati, and you said, okay, well, that's your path to 10 is right there because you sit at 7 right now, that all of those are must-wins. And they might still all very well be must-wins. But you do not, I do not think, want this coming down to Cincinnati on the final Sunday of the regular season down in Cincinnati, win or you're in. Cincinnati feels very confident that they can get to a point where that is the case. They still have to play Kansas City, but other than that, for them, it's manageable. It's Indianapolis, it's Minnesota after that. So there is a lot of confidence in the way that Jake Browning has played and a belief that they can get to that game with 9 wins already in tow, and that one be a win and you're in. For that not to be the case, we got to start stacking some wins, and it starts this Sunday with Jacksonville here at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Practice is earlier in the day today than normal. I will get some injury updates for you guys as we continue on. I can tell you that Amari Cooper still in concussion protocol, and David Njoku did not practice for the second day in a row. So for the Chief, this is a knee. Chief's a warrior. I mean, he played with his face burnt off. I'm certain that if it's possible for him to play, he will. I would say the same of Amari, but once you're in the protocol, you have to first test your way out of it, which gets us to the quarterback situation. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is practicing but remains in the concussion protocol. He threw to practice squad guys today along with P.J. Walker, but he was more off to the side. Now, you're not going to hear anything from Coach. We hope you're going to hear from Joe Flacco at some point today once practice wraps up around 1:30, and we will carry that for you live here on Cleveland Browns Daily. I don't know if you're going to get anything official from Coach. AVP spoke earlier today, and we'll have that for you just momentarily. I don't know if you're going to get anything definitive, but you're at a point where you can connect some dots and be smart people and get to an understanding that it's very likely Joe Flacco is going to play on Sunday. Now, with that comes the question of, is this something that I had proposed, that it's Flacco for the rest of the way? Maybe. Kevin Stefanski's been pretty adamant in all of his availabilities that his idea here is we're taking this in a one game at a time. It's cliche, but for them it's true because of the injuries that they've had. And I will give him a pass this week in the sense that, and Z pointed this out on Monday.
No, I don't think it has any factor, really.
There is a little bit of gamesmanship when it comes to – I'm sorry, was everything okay, Nick?
Yeah, that's on me. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. So there is a little bit of gamesmanship in terms of holding back the quarterback situation. So you can do one of two things here. And the fact that our two quarterbacks are so different allows for Jacksonville to have to prepare for both. But, of course, the longer Dorian Thompson-Robinson is in the protocol, the more likely, and it does feel very, very likely at this point, that Joe Flacco will be a starting quarterback on Sunday when Jacksonville comes to town. One of the men helping in charge with making that decision, and certainly one of the men in charge of what this offense could look like on Sunday, is offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. He met with the media earlier today. Let's have a listen.
Talking last week, you said Joe obviously has a lot left in the tank. Right. So after he played Sunday, what impressed you most about able to take that to the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd say probably the 3rd and 14th throw to Amari. That was very impressive. That caught itself, really. And that's just a lot of throws he made. You see it. Obviously he can stretch the field for sure. So real impressive for a guy to come off, without an off season or anything really and step in and be productive. So proud of him.
You mentioned being able to stretch the field. He thought that finally showed, or that showed up in the run game in the second half. Like, do you think that's something that will carry forward, that his ability to hit all parts opens things up for the run game?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely will. It all plays together, obviously. A little different style of QB than we've had, but that we're used to that, so we can always adjust and adapt, and always going to play to our guys' strengths, whoever's in there.
He's taken a hit, absorbed a blow, been out there with his teammates, had the pads on again. How much better do you think he'll be this week if he gets
Oh, a
start?
ton. I mean, there were a handful of plays in that game where, if he'd been here through training camp and knew all the adjustments and rules that, we weren't on the same page oftentimes, not often, a few times where a week better of just understanding the system will clean that up.
We saw him he was peeking at his wristband a couple times, even under center. Is he just getting like the last little details on pass routes, or what's on there that's?
Play calling is difficult, especially when you're just getting thrown into the mix like he is. So, it's just the wristband is kind of like a security blanket just in case. He does a great job of learning the play calls each week, and that's just in case you need it. So we'll call the play to him and say, hey, by the way, it's wristband. So a lot of times you'll see quarterbacks just refer to it, make sure they're calling it correctly. When you get to the line of scrimmage, you're just, oh, shoot, what was it again? Kind of confirming it, and that's where we are right now.
Yesterday, a lot of that play action looked really good with him. Is that just because he's got all those little subtleties down so well? I mean, does his size lend to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's how he grew up, under center, running the ball and play action. So all the ball handling he's very familiar with. That's something we definitely put a point of emphasis on, is making him look as much like the run as possible.
I was doing a couple drop passes in that game in L.A. What do you think the common thread to that is? Because you've been, not you, but the team's been dropping more than any time since you've been here.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that we've done differently. To be honest with you, you kind of go through these streaks at times. I mean, we work fundamentals of catching every day, so it's nothing that we've not like all of a sudden stopped catching the ball at practice like we do at daily. So, sometimes it's just, oh man, I got the drops right now. It's like my driver, Oftentimes it's left, and then all of a sudden it's right. So we just got to correct it and not worry about it as much as just just catch the ball, and we will.
You don't think it has anything to do with guys getting used to a different quarterback all the time?
I don't think so. I don't. I don't think there's a huge difference of velocity from each guy. There's some difference, yeah, but that hasn't seemed to be the issue. Whatever quarterback in the last few days or few weeks, we've dropped the ball, so we got to handle the ball better.
It's just, I know that you probably want to leave this in Kevin's hands, but just to get it on the record, I mean, can you announce yet or say anything about whether or not Joe will start?
Yeah, we're still working through all that, Mary Kay. We still have to get Dorian all the way through the process right now. So until he officially clears, there's no real decisions to be made.
You guys, I know you can't control the injury situation week to week, but this has been an ongoing challenge for you guys this year. When you're going through these weeks not knowing who your starter is going to be, is that as big of a deal for you guys as maybe outside the building sometimes it gets made out to be?
It's a big deal. Again, it's our jobs as coaches, again, to put a plan together, to put whoever that player is in the best situation for success for him and for us. So, again, it's honestly, after going through the COVID years and all that, this is it's part of the deal now. Adjust and adapt, and it's a bottom line business. We got to find a way to win games, regardless of who's out there.
I just want to clarify. So, is Dorian still in the protocol right now?
I do have to talk to those guys, as I know. I think there's one more box to check before it's all go. But I'm not 100% sure. I have to check with those guys.
You were a backup quarterback. You understand the value of them as well as anyone. Has this season, because of all these injuries, changed the way you think teams are going to value backup quarterbacks?
The backup? It can. It's organizational. I mean, how you to deal with those positions. It's money based a lot of the times. But that's an important role as an ex-backup. I would like to like the running backs are trying to get let's go with the backup quarterbacks. But it's important to have one. We've had some good success with the guys we put in those positions. But yeah, I mean it's always like another security blanket. But again, the guys have stepped in. PJ won 2 games for us. Dorian won a game for us. Joe's going to win a game for us eventually down the road. So feel good about how we've gotten these guys prepared to play, regardless of who's in.
Does Elijah getting 12 targets, does that speak to their relationship, just game flow, all the above?
Yeah, a little bit of the above. I think the injury to Amari obviously put him into that spot, which is going to get the targets, and I think the familiarity between those two only helps.
If there is a decision to be made between Joe and Dorian this week, is it kind of difficult to evaluate Dorian if he is still in the protocol and is a little bit limited? Do you feel like you're getting a clear picture of how he's working back into things?
Yeah, I mean, we're working him back in now, and again, that'll come down to a later in the week decision. Yeah, sure it does. It does add a layer to it, but again, we have to wait to see the final, the end of the week results to see what we can do.
If Dorian does clear, is there something in his game that would make you think he would give you a better chance to win than with Joe?
Right now, again, it's not a decision to be made at this point. I think both guys give us a chance to win. I feel confident in both guys. I really do. Different players, but definitely I think both can give us a chance to win. Again, that'll be a decision made later in the week.
What are your thoughts on a little bit of, platooning or package of plays for Dorian if he's cleared?
Yeah, again, I mean, that's always a possibility if he makes it. Again, we're going to try to find, as we do every week, try to find a way to win one game this week, and if that's using all the roster availability that we had, then we could find a place for that.
With all the drop passes and the injury to Amari, is there any chance of Austin Watkins getting some play time?
That's something we'd have to discuss. He's definitely, from his preseason work shows that he can make plays in the league for us. Not exactly sure of the availability of those guys, but he is definitely an option.
Without Amari, if he doesn't play, how do you handle it? He's such a big part of what you guys do. Who needs to fill that void?
Yeah, everybody. Really, it's big shoes again. Everybody's going to have to step up. David Bell's going to have to step up and make plays. He does every week. He's Mr. Consistent. You ask Dave to do a job, he does it, and he catches the ball. I mean, he's just, you feel really good about him taking some of those reps. Elijah will play more in that position at times. And then he continues to grow and come on. So those are the three main targets. And then our tight ends will have to take some of that weight as well. So we'll have to spread the ball around. But we did a good job of that last week. I think we had 9 receivers. So, that's something that we feel good about. We're definitely going to have to find multiple people to fill that role.
So did you also see David Njoku become more targeted in that?
Absolutely. Each week you go into it, you think about the players and not the plays, and David's top on that list.
Harrison caught a touchdown for you last week. Just where's his game at right now?
Yeah, Harry's a really smart player. Headsy, always in the right spot, always doing the right thing. It's good to see him have success and catch a touchdown pass. I mean, he's a really good route runner. He gives you everything he's got in the run game. He's physical. Some of the kick-out blocks he's doing right now for us, that's a physical block. So, again, just trying to find skill sets, or use our guys' skill sets in the best position to put them in on game day. But I'm glad to see him get in the end zone. That was good.
Protocol, and will he practice today?
I'm not sure where he is. I think he still is. I'm not 100% sure, Mary Kay. I know that there's still more hurdles. It's different now than it used to be. But, yeah, he's got to check some more boxes, I believe.
Thank you.
We started covering for the Jaguars. What stands out about their defense that are the biggest challenges for you guys?
Yeah, solid group. I mean, obviously they're ranked highly in DVOA, so it's a really good defense. They're really good against the run, so great challenge for us. The edge rushers are special too, so having ability to make sure we're taking care of those edges is a big part of it. But really skilled defense plays a lot of defense, a lot of different looks. So the communication's important for us and how we ID things. But really impressive to watch those guys work. They do a nice job. Caldwell's been in the league a long time. I've followed his career. I want to say we came out around the same time. So I've always followed his career. He does a great job. He's been around some great coaches, and it shows their scheme is good. Their pressure package is really good as well. So big challenge.
Yeah, there's a number of games this season they've kept teams to under 100 rushing yards. So when you look at their run defense, I guess for you guys as you look at how to balance the run game and the pass game, what is the biggest challenge in that?
For us, for the run game, for us, we got to stay in positive plays. We had a couple TFLs last week that kind of scared us a little bit in the run game and really didn't get it cranking until the second half. So for us, it's coming out and being efficient on first and second down in the run game.
If the decision ultimately is Dorian this week, obviously he can't be on the practice field while he's in protocol, but can you give us an idea of what he is able to do to prep for a game while he's in the protocol?
Sure.
How much-
He's in practice now for us, so that there's different levels of that protocol. So right now he's available for work, so he's getting work out on the field, getting reps, and again, he's just whatever he has to do at the end of the week to get a green light. We'll see, but that's what he's doing. He's not off the field right now. He's with us.
Yeah, and so that's a little bit of a change from what we've seen in the protocols in the past where, usually in the old days, if someone was in the protocol, you would not hear about them being at the practice field or anything like that until, they were cleared and on the up and up. A couple of things I think you can take from AVP there. At one point he said, until Dorian clears, there's really nothing official. He also said at one point, Joe's going to win a game for us eventually down the road. Look, I mean, it's Thursday of game week, and you're talking about Joe Flacco playing in the game against the Rams. He's had the first team reps. He's had them again today. He had them yesterday. Tomorrow is obviously a big day. But the thing you have to remember with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, guys, is this is not a veteran quarterback who's been in the situation and getting start after start after start. In fact, the guy who played last week is that guy who could come in on short notice and go. And I also think there's a long-term investment thing with Dorian Thompson-Robinson that you want to make sure that this is being handled right. And I think that goes back to the decision to play P.J. Walker some earlier in the season is there was no interest in wrecking him when he wasn't all the way ready. My hunch is it'll be Joe Flacco on Sunday. My hunch is if you could hook AVP or Kevin Stefanski up to a lie detector test, they would tell you that they would love nothing more than to say Joe Flacco the rest of the way. That would be great. Or quite frankly, Dorian Thompson-Robinson the rest of the way if he were healthy. The last thing any coach wants to do is to be yo-yoing back and forth between quarterback as the season goes along. One other thing of note, and I get this a lot, I know Z gets it a lot, when they talk about, well, why is this the backup situation and when a starter goes down? Nathan and I went through this earlier in the week, guys. How many starting quarterbacks have been hurt already this season? It's about half the league has missed games in one way or another. And if you just go through the teams, you see what is happening here. And what AVP said there is the backup quarterback position is money-based a lot of the time. So this goes back to the Bill Polian ethos years ago with the Colts, which was if we lose 18, it doesn't matter much anyway. So we're not going to invest in the position. And so if you are a team that is paying a quarterback, most oftentimes you do not invest in the paying of the backup quarterback because that money is better spent elsewhere. And if the starting quarterback goes down, in most instances, it's a fall off the cliff situation. So you can just go through the league. Do it start in the AFC East. Josh Allen is a starter, so the backup's Kyle Allen. Kyle's had some spot starts here and there with Carolina, but not much. In Miami, it's Tua. Behind him is Mike White. So there's a pretty serviceable backup position there. New England's a mess. It's Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. Those are the two guys in position there. New York, obviously, it was Rodgers, but behind him was Wilson. And that is a situation where, like, boy, if in a normal circumstance, Wilson probably wouldn't be there. The only reason he's there is because they drafted him number 2 overall. In our division, Jackson, behind Jackson is Tyler Huntley. Jake Browning is now the starter. But of course, he backed up Burrow. Nobody heard of Jake Browning unless you were a college football fan who remembered him at Washington up until the way he's played the last 2 weeks, and especially on Monday night. Our backup was Dorian Thompson-Robinson to Deshaun. Kenny Pickett. The Steelers have one of the most it's just a strange room. They've got Pickett, Trubisky, and Rudolph. Mason Rudolph has been there since 2018. They drafted him in the 3rd round in 2018 as a potential successor to Big Ben. Never came to fruition, and so he's still there on that roster. So they have 3 of them. In the AFC South, obviously, as you head there, it's CJ, and then it's Davis Mills, so 2 draftable guys, and then a veteran, Case Keenum, on that roster as well. Minshew backed up Richardson, who was originally the starter, and then Ellinger's there behind him. It's Lawrence in Jacksonville with Beathard behind. Tannehill was the starter, but then they drafted Will Levis in this year's draft and Malik Willis in the previous year's draft. If you just want to simplify this to contenders, it's even more stark in terms of it. In Denver, it's Russell Wilson, and then it's Jared Stidham. In Kansas City, it's Patrick Mahomes, and then it's Blaine Gabbert. In Chargers. Hard for me to even call them a contender, especially without Z here. I know how much he loves them. It's Herbert, and then it's Easton Stick. You got anything on an Easton Stick? I don't. And I do college football all morning, all year round. In the NFC, it's similar. It's Dak and then Cooper Rush. Another contender, Jalen Hurts, and then it's Marcus Mariota. See, guys, it's bargain basement stuff is the way that this thing goes. It's very rare that you see a team that is paying for a quality backup quarterback. I mean, Dobbs is starting now in Minnesota, but he wasn't even there. Remember, he starts the season here, then he goes to Arizona, then he goes to Minnesota. So they didn't have anybody on their roster. Nick Mullins was still on that roster. The only other contenders are in the NFC West, and you see similar stuff here. It's Purdy starting in San Francisco, but remember, last pick in the draft, so they're not having to pay him a pretty penny to be able to handle it, and then it's Darnold behind him, who's bargain basement at that point. Kyler Murray's backup is Clayton Tune. With the Rams, remember, they had Rippon. He started a game, sent him packing, and then they got Wentz on the scrap heap to back up Stafford. In Seattle, rather, it's Geno Smith and then Drew Lock, who they acquired in the Russell Wilson trade. So I think that kind of proves the way that the league views the quarterback position, which makes it all the more stupefying that somebody like Joe Flacco, who's as competent and quality as he is, and you saw that in the game against the Rams, was just sitting there on the scrap heap to be had. You benefit pretty big from that. You've got a guy now that I know personally, and I know everybody in that room feels very confident in, that they can get to 10 wins with Joe Flacco. I think they could do it with DTR too, but there was a calming factor that Joe Flacco brought to the game on Sunday, and I personally would like to see it continue. Practice just about ready to wrap up out in Berea. We will have some live podium from you, hoping to hear from Joe Flacco, hoping to hear potentially from Joel Bitonio as well on that side of things. You will hear from your defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. Been a bit of a rough patch here the last couple of weeks. We will get to that as the program goes along. In addition to that, we will go behind enemy lines in Jacksonville, and our good buddy Tyvis Powell will join us coming up. That'll hit around 2:33 will be your hit time on that. We are off and running on Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Let Tide Cleaners take care of your laundry and your dry cleaning needs this holiday season. Enjoy $10 off of $40 or more all month long with the code BROWNS10. Exclusions do apply, of course. Visit locally owned and operated Tide Cleaners in the greater Cleveland area and make the most of your holidays. Jacksonville practicing today as well down in Duval. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence back at practice. Didn't do every drill, but did warm up and do some throwing. He's playing. He's absolutely playing in the game. I mean, I'm sure that the Browns are playing that way. It is odd, though, that from a line standpoint, it doesn't feel like that's reflected in the line. So as the Browns are still favored, and with Lawrence, I'm not sure that is the case. I'm not sure that will continue to be the case based on that. The one thing I did want to say from a Jacksonville standpoint, they come into this one at 8-4. They come into this one fresh off a loss to Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, so it's a short week. Their quarterback is a little bit hobbled. Remember, he has a consecutive start streak that he's still in the middle of. Their next, it's pretty tough. So they're here Sunday, then they're Baltimore at home on Sunday Night Football. Then it's at Tampa Bay on Christmas Eve. It's rather Carolina at home on New Year's Eve, and they close the season at the Titans on the 7th. Look, all of these teams, and there's a jumble of them that are all kind of in the mix for those wild card spots. Now, Jacksonville's different in that their goal primarily would be to win the AFC South and get the seeding that comes with that. But no matter where you are, it does feel like it's a race to 10. If you get to 10 wins, that is kind of the sweet spot in terms of a number to get to. So I would expect Trevor Lawrence, if he's throwing and maybe he's not doing all the drills, he's doing the most from down there in North Florida today. My hunch is that you will see him on Sunday at Cleveland Browns Stadium. When you're at this time of the season, you need every facet to be clean, and that includes the special teams unit. Let's go back to the podium. Bubba Ventrone.
I'm just curious, once it hits the ground, what are the teaching points there? Do you hope you can catch it to grab it off the bounce?
Yeah, so Evans mishit the ball, was a short kick, came off the foot a little bit funky. Ideally, we would have loved to have fielded that thing in the air because we had space to go, and unfortunately we didn't. And then, coaching point on playing the bounce is ideally you'd like to be about 8 yards from the ball and square, head up on it. And then if it kicks right to you, then be able to field it. Otherwise, he said it was spinning in a funky direction. It kind of was. You could see it on the replay. But yeah, after that, get away from the ball because you don't want anybody to have any contact that you don't want. So unfortunately, we did not field the ball. I wish we would have been able to.
How much improvement have you seen out of the punt return game since James has taken over the last couple of weeks?
I think it's been good. I think our interior's done a good job. I thought we're playing pretty well on the perimeter. Have not had any penalties in recent weeks, which is a positive thing. So we'll keep emphasizing that. But he's done a good job of getting downhill and getting what he can get. And I think we averaged 15 a return last week, which was good. Just missed that opportunity, which we would have loved to have had. We probably get at least 15 on that return, maybe more, and then now we get drive start on the 1, 2, whatever it was. So that was unfortunate for us.
Well, but we've talked about your emphasis on not getting those holding or blocking in the back penalties. Yeah. But I mean, all special teams coaches want that. What is your secret to such a minimum number that you've had this year?
No, I don't think there's any secret to it. I think it's the emphasis that you put on it, each week, and then trying to educate our players on how the game is being officiated, and then support that with clips from throughout the league where other teams are making fouls, and then you can kind of understand how those calls are being made. So I think our guys have a good understanding on how we need to play and how we need to play clean.
The number of penalties you've had on those returns?
On the return game? I don't.
What kind of impact has he been able to bring your team?
Mike Ford. He brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of speed, toughness. He's the kind of guy you want to be able to coach and to, impact your unit. Our guys gravitate towards Mike. He works hard week in and week out, puts a lot into it, prepares well. So he's done a nice job for us. Been a good spark.
How has he grown though this season, just in that learning and grow more comfortable in that role?
Who's that?
Mike,
Is it-
grow it this season.
Yeah, I think he's done a nice job. He's a guy that I've always liked watching on crossover tape. Have never really had the chance to go against him consistently, not being in like the same division or anything like that. But he's done a really good job for us. I think he's improved for sure as the season's gone along, and he's a guy that we look at to give us some energy to that unit. He's an infectious player, and I enjoy coaching him.
Along those lines, I mean, how important are those like core kind of guys who have that energy when you're a new coordinator on this team and trying to establish things, and how helpful is he with just that intangible stuff?
Yeah, I think that when we first started, it took a little bit longer to get that, the camaraderie amongst our group, and now I feel like we have, I would say, good continuity within the unit. You have Matt Adams, Mike Ford, Jordan Kanashik, Tony Fields, all those guys, Pierre Strong, all those guys have done a really good job and complement each other well. I think we're doing a good job of playing complementary to each other within the unit, and everybody feeding off of each other and playing team football. So I think that's been good for our unit.
What stands out to you about this Jacksonville special teams unit?
They're a good unit. I've gone against this team for the last 5 years, being in Indy in that same division. I've gone against their coordinator, both as a player and as a coach. Heath does a nice job with them. I think they're a tough group. They've got some instinctive players, and 42 Wingard, 57 Johnson. Both those guys are really good players. They have good specialists. Brandon McManus is a veteran kicker who's been in the league for a long time in Denver. And then I think their punter is one of the best in the league. I think he's super talented. Cook, number 9, he's very, very impactful player for them. So I think that he does a really good job for them.
But with the weather, who knows what it's going to be Sunday, right? It might be windy and rainy, but we're in December, so it could be whatever.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get here.
Right. So, do you have any different message for your guys? Do you have any different, coaching points when it could be an issue for the first time?
No, I mean, we've played in some weather games this year. And, the opener against Cincinnati, we had rain in that game, so our guys will be ready to go.
I know things happen, obviously, in game, but did Dustin come talk to you at all, or you guys had conversations after the missed extra?
Yeah, the missed PAT. We need to convert. We really do. We need to do a better job of really just focusing on making that kick and doing everything we can to have the best mechanics, the best finish. Can't miss that opportunity. We needed to be able to convert there. That hurt our team, and yeah, it was unfortunate.
Is there any commonalities with what he on that kick and the one he missed in Baltimore in terms of what he did on those kicks?
I don't think so. I think every play, every kick is different. We're playing in a controlled environment inside where there's really not a lot of. I mean, there is open air in that stadium, but it's not anything that would affect anything like that. I think we just got to do a better job of finishing on the kick and really focusing on our mechanics.
All right, that's Bubba Ventrone from the podium from earlier this morning. Now let's go live out to Berea. Denzel Ward addressing the media after practicing for the second day. Let's go there now.
Just BS. Like I said, we put a lot of great tape out there on film. We got the ability to be elite defense in this league, and we just got to play to who we are. Got to play fast, got to play with that swag out there, and play complimentary ball. So I think we'll get back to who we are and help our offense out, help special teams, and help this team win.
Denzel, this is obviously December. It's the make or break time of the year for teams that are competing for playoff spots. How much can you draw from the 2020 season? I know it was real abnormal with the COVID protocols and stuff like that, but Can that experience of what you guys went through help you this time around as you go through another playoff chase here?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, every year you're going to be faced with a lot of adversity, and just got to try to find ways to overcome it and ultimately find a way to get a win. That's always the goal. Each week is to go 1-0 and get a win. And but yeah, just find a way to overcome that adversity. But I think we're capable of doing that.
So it looked like the last thing that I saw, PFF had you as like the number one ranked corner in single coverage at like a 26.3 passer rating against. I think it was. Do you feel like you're having your best season in single coverage like that?
I do, honestly. I feel like I am having one of my better seasons, definitely in man-to-man coverage. But I count that to Coach Schwartz, my position coaches, and the D-line being able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks and the back end. We've been playing a great complementary ball when I've been out there, and they've been doing a great job helping me out and putting me in great positions to make plays on the ball and just be in great position, really. So I feel I have been doing pretty well in that aspect, but a lot goes into that and how I'm able to get necessarily one of the best man-to-man coverages that rushes. They're putting a lot of pressure on that quarterback, making them get that ball out pretty quick. So I don't have to cover too long back there.
Obviously, this is ultimate team. Back-to-back losses with you out, the defense having a little bit of struggles. How much pride do you take in being able to give them a boost, when you get back out there?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in that. I try to be that spark and be that big energy and playmaking guy out there as best as I can and doing whatever I can to help my team win. So it's been hard for me and hurting just being out for my guys. I want to be there. So just feeling like I've been kind of letting them down. But just trying to fight to get back out there with those guys, that's the goal. But just try to do my best I can and be myself and help this team win.
Denzel, you've had a few concussions, you had a shoulder injury just now. This stage of your career, what is your attitude about the way you play? You're not going to change anything, the way you play, the way you tackle, the way you...
Man, I feel I'm a playmaking corner, and I feel like my team needs me, and I need myself. I need this game. I love playing this game, and injuries are going to happen. Stuff is going to happen. Like you said, I had a few concussions, but I'm not too worried about that. Like I did my research and everything on that, and overcome those. And it hurt my shoulder a little bit, but that's just how the game goes sometimes. Just gotta try to find a way to continue to stay on top of my body and everything. And once maybe I do go out, get back as fast as I can and get back out there. But it's definitely not gonna affect the way I play the game. I feel like when I'm out there, I just do what I can to help my team win, and that's playing fast and physical and being who I am.
When you say you feel like you've been letting the team down, why would you feel that way when you're obviously out with a shoulder injury that you can't do anything about it and you have been fighting so hard to get back? Why do you feel that?
Yeah, I just want to be out there with my guys. That's it. I know the team needs me. And I just want to be out there with them, out there fighting with them and trying to fight for the playoffs. So that's the biggest thing when I say I feel like I'm kind of letting them down. Even though stuff happens, that's life. Things are going to happen, and you're going to be faced with situations where you may be out and may not be able to do certain things. But just trying to be the best me I could be. And if I'm out, being a great coach on the sideline and help those guys out as best as I can. But I know, for me personally, in this situation, it's best for me to be out on that field than on the sideline as a coach.
Denzel, a follow-up on what you said about dealing with injuries throughout your career. When you're out there, we know that you play at a Pro Bowl level, but it has been something you have to repeatedly overcome and come back and come back. What keeps you going? What keeps your head up when you're dealing with that over and over and over?
Yeah, I understand that injuries are going to happen, stuff is going to happen. That's football. I think I just compare it to life. Everything's not going to be perfect in life, and things are going to happen, but it's about how you respond and how you overcome it. So I take a lot of pride in being able to fight back, and regardless of the circumstance, being able to come back and execute at a high level of play, and still doing my job. So like I said, that's life. Stuff is going to happen in life, but just being able to overcome.
I heard in the beginning that it may have been something to do with your labrum. Was it something sort of structural that you've been dealing with?
I'm not going to disclose any sort of injuries or of that. So, but I'm feeling a lot better and just looking forward to get back with the guys. Thank you, guys.
There's Denzel Ward at the podium out in Berea feeling, boy, it's just better when he's there. The last 2 weeks we've seen it. You lose a guy who's playing at an all-pro level, and I agree with him. I think this is the best cornerback play that he has played in his career right now, and it's an absolute game changer for our defense when he's in the mix. When you think about it's the butterfly effect, too, because him and Emerson as the 1 and 1A, that's as good as you're going to find in the league. That allows Greg to be in that slot, although sometimes Denzel goes in there, too. But all of a sudden you take an all-pro guy out, obviously mixed with the fact that Miles is playing kind of half with an arm, and that leads to some of the breaks we've seen defensively. The guy that we believe will be in charge is me speaking, not the team, this weekend in terms of your field general, Joe Flacco. Let's head back out to Berea now for his presser.
It all to kind of break myself in. So every week kind of gets you a little bit more comfortable. But I don't really think it's necessarily the process. I think it's just kind of now getting with the individual guys and getting a feel for, the little details more so than the big picture plan.
Is there an area where you look at the first game and say, this is where you could take a jump in the second game?
Yeah. Listen, in the first game, it was really not a very physical game for me. I think our offensive line did a great job. I think there was just times where, I threw the ball away, which is good. But at the same time, I felt like there was a couple different times that maybe I could have moved, maybe drug the play out a little bit more, did certain things like that. And then there were a couple plays where it was just like the little details of whatever that play may have been. There may have been 2 or 3 plays where, that kind of, I lost it for a second, and we didn't do, we threw an incompletion or whatever. So, those are probably 2 areas that I can get a little bit better.
Seems like the time away affected your decisions more than anything physical.
Well, like I said, I think it was a very easy first game in terms of the physicality for me. So I don't know if it's like a great measure of how my body's necessarily going to react to the physical nature of it. But I mean, I know that I'm not in my 20s anymore, but 38 isn't super old in the real world. So I feel like I've done a good job of keeping myself in shape. But anytime you go and step on that field, and any year really for a quarterback, it's kind of week to week how your body feels physically, just because you're not in the middle of the line banging heads every single play. It really comes down to how many times did you land on that ground. And
I can't imagine just throwing the ball and executing play fakes. I mean, that was not a problem.
No, I made sure I kept my arm in good enough shape, and all that other stuff. There's definitely an element to it that's like riding a bike. You just get back out there and start doing it.
You're telling us now training camp is completely overrated, right? You come right off the couch and do what you got to do.
Listen, I there's definitely parts of training camp I enjoy, and there's definitely parts of training camp that I can't say I was too disappointed on missing out on. I'm sure a lot of veterans will probably tell you, oh, we don't need training camp, let's just start the season. But there's more to it than that. I don't think this is ideal. I think you definitely like to, kind of rev up a little bit and get yourself going.
I was asking Kevin and Alex how sharp you were on all the little nuances in the play action, hand position, all that stuff. Did that stuff all come back naturally, or is that stuff you really needed to work on last week to get ready?
I think how I do it comes back naturally for the most part. You don't realize how much of that stuff is also relying on the back and the line firing off and the back rolling over and making sure that he's, as wide as he needs to be or as tight as he needs to be. And then obviously with each different coaching staff, they have little different nuances on how they do those things and how it sets up this play versus that play. So, like I said, the way I've done it, it comes back pretty naturally, but there's always a little bit of different ways that coaches coach it that I need to get up to speed a little bit on.
Hey, Joe, you played in Cleveland a lot in your career. Is this place more difficult than others in bad weather? Because you guys could face some bad weather here on Sunday.
I think when you play in this division, which I have most of my career, you just have to get used to the fact that that's going to be the case. Both teams have to deal with it, and I don't think anybody. I don't care how long and how much you tell yourself that you love playing in this kind of stuff and try to convince yourself that you can do it. I don't think anybody loves it, but you get used to doing it, and you have your ways. I mean, I remember back in the day, coaches made you wear the long studs, and Fields have gotten better over the last 15 years, but that's still a factor. You can see out in the practice field, like you want to be able to have guys. I would think more so than the ball and all that, it's footing. And it's getting guys' feet in the ground so that they can confidently run routes and put their feet in the ground.
Joe, it's been a while since you were with the team in the thick of the playoff chase. So what do you feel about that and the responsibility now that's on your shoulders at this game to game? How do you feel about that? Is that invigorating or daunting or what?
Yeah, listen, it's invigorating for sure. It's exciting. This is what you want. There's always things like when you're sitting by yourself and you're running through things in your head, there's always things that you're going to think about, and that's why it is so important. And you always hear people say, just stay in the moment, be where you are, and that's the biggest. That's one of the biggest challenges for probably professional athletes is to try to stay in the moment as much as you can, and just worry about today, doing this interview. After this, going and taking care of my body and going into the meeting room. And if you let your mind wander 5 days from now, 4 days from now, 3 days from now, you're just doing yourself such a disservice, and more importantly, you're doing your team a disservice because you don't want to think about outcomes. You want to think about doing your job and everybody else doing their job side by side and letting everything else take care of itself.
Joe, we remember the
Amari Cooper still in the concussion protocol. How much are you really hoping he can rally and get out there and help you guys out this weekend?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit after the game about him. He's a special player. He definitely pops off the screen at you, and just the way he runs his routes and catches the football. So I'm really rooting for him to get out there and help his team out. He's a big deal.
Joe, you completed passes, I think, to 9 different receivers. But just, stepping in here, what have you learned about this group of receivers, and how challenging is it for you having to learn that volume of guys and just maybe the different ways they like catching footballs?
I think for me, ultimately, when it gets to game day, I'm able to kind of put that stuff aside and just go play in rhythm and trust the fact that those guys are going to be in the spot they are, and not stress about the fact that I haven't thrown to them for a ton of time. The thing I've learned about these guys so far is that they put their head down and they work, and they're a great receiving group in that way, just wanting to get extra throws, and then when we're at practice, just committing to what we're doing and going out there and working hard at doing it. I think it's a really well-led group. They seem to be mature, and even though there's a handful of young guys in there, so I really just like the way they work and approach the day.
So other than Ben, you have more wins in this stadium than any opposing quarterback. So you're aware of that, I'm sure. You could pad that figure.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, we can get another one this weekend, and see what happens here.
So you targeted Elijah. Obviously, go ahead, Chris. You and Elijah obviously had a relationship prior to you getting here, and on Sunday, you targeted him like 12 times. Was that just sort of in the flow, or how much,
Yeah, it was. Listen, I think when Amari goes down and he gets put in that position, you're going to be put in some spots where you have individuals, and if you're one-on-one, you're going to be the guy that's called on. So, yeah, it wasn't like I was going out and targeting Elijah because my kids said, hey, in New York, he was awesome, and you got to keep throwing to him. It's just kind of where it took me, and,
Joe, we remember you feel today, Joe, with being such a legend, an MVP level quarterback, right? 6'6", or do we get to see any rollout plays? Are you running too? Are we gonna see any of that?
I don't know.
Joe, we ask you about Trevor Lawrence practice today in Jacksonville. So he returned to practice. What is it? Does that kind of ratchet up the intensity of the game a little bit, knowing that you might be going up against one of the best quarterbacks right now in the NFL?
Like I said, you can't look forward to that. You have to stay in the moment. But credit to him. I mean, listen, this league's about being tough and showing up for your team on Sundays. So if that's what he's trying to do and getting out there, and this is one of those steps is going out there and practicing today. And so that's all I would say. It's a credit to him being able to get back out there and show up for his team.
Joe, when you remember saying in the league, how long did it take within the team in the moment having a match? Like maybe you had a chance to maybe pass on a knowledge that didn't even previous understanding.
I don't know. I think there's probably times early on where you were able to do it really well, and times where you just weren't. It's not. It's something that you constantly have to be on, and it's just part of that mental game and having that kind of like routine that you go throughout the week that keeps you on track. If you don't have a routine, then you're always going to kind of be floating around.
So we remember your last trip to Brown Stadium, right, with the Jets. But you were here so many times with the Ravens. What stands out about, like, are there some memories from those trips that really stand out to you?
I'm trying to think. I remember my rookie year here for whatever reason. Listen, the thing that playing in this division and coming here, it's not an indoor stadium. It's an old school, not an old school, obviously, but it's a grass field, outdoors. You feel the city of Cleveland. You usually have some kind of weather, so you know where you are. And I don't know. It's definitely, that's the way you like it. You smell the grass. It just feels like football. And that's kind of this whole division is like that to a certain extent. So I don't know. That's kind of always the stadiums that have kind of been attractive to myself, is like when you can go out there and, like I said, smell the grass and feel like it's football weather. And that's the time of the year we're in. We're in December and we're in Cleveland, and it should be a lot of fun.
There's Joe Flacco at the podium. There was a voice that I think I'd heard before, but not typically in the press corps. And we had it on the Twisted Tea hotline now, and potentially a burgeoning reporter, Elijah Moore, joining us. You looking for a second profession there, buddy? That was you asking Mr. Flacco the questions, was it not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's fun, right? What is it? I mean, you think to yourself, like, you're going to run into Joe. You come to Cleveland in the offseason. We're thrilled to have you, and all of a sudden, a guy who you spent a year with is starting quarterback, and you guys are back together. It's the craziest damn thing.
Yeah, man. That's definitely the league, man. That's life. You never know how they're going to play out. So I'm definitely grateful I get to see it. Yeah.
What was it like seeing that, especially the way he started the game, an absolute missile to Amari? Like, this is a guy who he had told us in the lead up to him playing over the weekend that, he's thrown in the backyards to his kids. Certainly didn't look that way to us. What did it look like to you, ground level?
Man, it looked pretty much the same way, man. He was dicing it up. He looked super comfortable out there. Joe, like I said in my last interview, Joe has this calmness to him, this type of swag that I think that gains everybody together, because you have the confidence that he just got it all under control. Even in crucial moments, he's like never high and he's never low. He's always the same.
The word that I used earlier this week to describe it was he's a pro, right? I mean, sometimes it's not, he's just a professional.
Exactly. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah, and so when you have one of those, you have stability. You guys coming home after a long road trip, obviously. You're out in Denver, and then you stay out in Los Angeles and play the game against the Rams. And obviously it doesn't go the way that you guys were hoping for it to go. But nevertheless, you come back to this one 7-5. All of the goals are still in front of this team. What has it been like to get back home? What have these first two practices this week felt like in terms of preparation for Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a long flight home. We were on the other side of the world, it felt like, but the week so far has been great. I feel like that's really all we needed. After a loss, you can't really dwell too much on it. Even if you win or lose, coach kind of teases us just to flush it down the toilet, because it's really about this week coming up. So I feel like that's what everyone's doing. We're focusing on the now, and we're putting our best foot forward for this, Sunday.
We talked a lot about you and that connection with Joe. That obviously played out in Sunday's game. And of course, we don't know about Amari. He's still in concussion protocol. But if a bigger role is called on and you're called upon for that bigger role, how ready are you for it?
I feel like I'm as ready as I can be. I put my best foot forward every single day. If Amari was here or not. So I think that's what everybody in the room and on our team tries to do. Put ourselves in the best position.
Do you guys, I know that, we use that word professional to talk about Joe, and it's all you guys, right? I mean, this is the business. This is the league. Like, injuries happen. Guys come in, guys come out. This team has suffered so many catastrophic injuries, so many big injuries, and yet I still anytime you guys take the field, it feels like there's still complete belief, no matter what has happened, that you're going to go out there and handle your business. In terms of the chemistry of this team, the closeness of this team, what are you seeing as a guy who's new to the operation?
Yeah, I mean, I just got here, and personally, I've never been as close to these teammates than I've been on any team in my entire life. College, little league, and even my first couple years in the league. Nothing compares to this specific team I'm on now. I don't know the reason why. I just feel as if I feel like we all just gel as far as personalities, and we make an attempt to go hard for each other. So and that's something that's been reoccurring throughout the whole locker room that everyone says. So I feel like we just fight for each other. It's nothing like going out there and imagine if each one of your family members was lining up next to you. You're gonna go hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the other thing about it is, and you said that personalities, and it struck me because this team is full of a lot of really confident individuals, and it feels like you guys feed off each other. Certainly, the receiver and DB rooms feed off each other.
Nah, especially us. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot between that one there, and I do think that there's there's so many similarities that I think leads to that kind of everyone rowing in the same direction. This is a big one, obviously, on Sunday against Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence did practice today. My hunch is he'll play. Who knows? We'll find out later. But he did practice, was limited. It's a big challenge with their offense and some of the challenges that they provide. Our defense ought to be up to that. But in terms of as you look at their defensive matchups for you guys, are there things that you guys think you can take advantage of? And what do you think the plan will be this week?
The plan is the same as it is every single week. I feel like if we do lose, it's just us beating us. When you cut the film on and you go over the corrections, it's just us being detailed in execution. That's really all it is. Football is, as you know, not just what everyone thinks it is. Just pitch, catch, run around. It's not that. There's a lot of things that have to go right every single play between 11 people. So we're just working on that mesh that as much as we can to get that as consistent as we can.
Elijah, thank you so much for the time, buddy, and just hold off until I retire before you get into the media business. Just give me a few more years, man. I don't need you taking jobs.
I got you.
All right, thanks, buddy. Elijah Moore joining us on the Twisted Tea hotline, and good luck to him and all of our team on Saturday. If your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna has the answer for you, delivering a winning strategy for breaking down the game of real estate. As the market leaders in Northeast Ohio, more buyers and sellers trust Howard Hanna as their winning home team. Visit howardhanna.com/Go Browns today for more. Second hour of the program coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. a medical mistake cause you injury, call the medical malpractice attorneys at 1-800-ELK Ohio. Elk and Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Mike DiRocco going to join us here in about 8 minutes or so behind enemy lines on the Jacksonville side of things. And there could be something very big out of that from a news standpoint. Trevor Lawrence, of course, franchise quarterback of the Jaguars, who has started every game since he has been a part of that organization, was injured in the game on Monday Night Football against Cincinnati. It looked gruesome, but he had a press conference earlier in this week. There was no boot on that ankle. And then in the practice that has taken place today down in Jacksonville, he was a participant. Now, not a full participant, but a participant nevertheless. And so that will certainly help their chances and be a very different game plan for us to prepare for had he not been there. Christian Kirk was hurt in the game as well against Cincinnati. He will not. He's on IR and he is done. So they have some wounded as well, but among the wounded will not be Trevor Lawrence. Now, as far as your Browns are concerned and the injury report, Amari Cooper, still in concussion protocol, no practice out of him today. The Chief, David Njoku, DNP on him. That is a knee. Coop, at that one, you're a prisoner of the concussion protocol. So we'll just see what happens with that and how long he could potentially be out. But there's nothing you can do to speed that process up. That is, once you're in that protocol, you're in it until you can test your way out of that. As for Chief, the knee injury, I do not believe that it is anything solid, or anything serious, rather. That isn't scores or anything like that, but just feeling like there's a pretty good chance that a guy who went through what he went through already, that this is probably feels more like rest. Remember, it is always the Friday practices, especially with the veterans, that we're paying attention to. Those are the practices where if a vet participates in that one, that's when you know they're a go. If they miss the Friday, every once in a while on a Saturday, you can find your way back. That happens from time to time, but largely it's the Friday practice you'll be paying attention to, and that's the one we'll be paying attention to tomorrow here on the program in terms of who is in and who is out for a really monumental game against Jacksonville for your Cleveland Browns on Sunday. At the quarterback position, we heard from Joe Flacco live here on the program. It's a calming presence. You heard from Elijah Moore right after it as well, his former teammate with the Jets. And it's just probably the way all of you felt watching it. As the first snaps, the first throws, the first dropbacks, it was just like, okay, it's a pro. It's a professional quarterback. And that's what Joe Flacco is. And with the update on DTR being that he is practicing but still in concussion protocol. So today he threw to practice squad guys. PJ Walker did that as well. But it's still not cleared of concussion protocol. We had Alex Van Pelt on earlier in the program, and he articulated that it was his belief, he wasn't concrete in this, but it was his belief that Dorian Thompson-Robinson still needed one more kind of benchmark to clear before he could return to practice as a full-time participant. And while they will not officially name a starter until that has taken place, I think it's pretty clear that Joe Flacco is probably going to be your guy on Sunday. And quite frankly, I think that's the right choice. I said that on Monday after watching him play against the Rams. My words, not the organization's. It's just a different level. And the stated goal for this team, which has been walking wounded really since the start of the season, once you have that second major catastrophic injury, you lose Conklin and Chubb early, and then once you have the Deshaun injury, you say to yourself, okay, let's make the playoffs. Like, that's the goal. Let's go make the playoffs. Super Bowl is another conversation. If Watson doesn't get hurt, that's a more realistic conversation that we're having. But once that injury happens, you say, let's make the postseason. And once you get in the dance, the defense is good enough. You make a couple of plays. Who knows? To me, from what I saw Sunday in Los Angeles, Joe Flacco gives you the best possible opportunity to do that. He is a steadying hand, and it also allows Kevin Stefanski, I think, to call the type of offense that he is very comfortable with. This is under center. This is the play action game. This is the deep shots, the intermediate stuff. This is the stuff that he ran in Minnesota. And this is all offense that Joe Flacco absolutely loves and thrives in. And if you listen to his press conference live here on the program, you certainly heard how comfortable he was, the calming presence that he was, and that ought to make you feel good by the time you get to a game here on Sunday at 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. As for Jacksonville and their injury report and their mindset coming in, we will go behind enemy lines coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the National Football League. Join Next Gen STM, presented by Ticketmaster, official waitlist of your Cleveland Browns. Being a Next Gen STM is the best chance to become a season ticket member in future seasons. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/NextGenSTM to reserve your spot today. Let's head behind enemy lines. ESPN NFL Nation reporter Mike DeRocco joining us on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I guess the $100 million question is Trevor Lawrence's ankle. How's it going? What's the sense down there on his availability for Sunday?
Well, he returned to practice today on a limited basis. He didn't practice yesterday. We just got off the practice field for the media viewing, about an hour ago, and he was out there participating in the warm-ups, did a few drills, not all of them, but did throw the ball. So, they thought that the injury wasn't as bad as it first initially appeared, and now it looks like there's a chance he may play. Personally, I think he's going to play, and I thought that actually yesterday or Wednesday when he walked into the media room for his interview without a boot or anything on his right ankle, but just like a little compression wrap.
Mike, I'm watching it on TV. You're at the stadium. When that happens on Monday, and I mean, we've had several catastrophic injuries around here, but your thinking has to be like the rest of us that, my God, is it done?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've dealt. Those of us in the media have dealt with that twice before. Earlier this year, he had his left knee was twisted against the Colts, I think in week 6, and it looked really bad. And then he played 4 days later against the Saints, and then last year, against Detroit, he hurt his toe. That looked really bad, but then he came back in the second half, played the rest of the game, and in neither case did he miss a start or anything the following week. So. It looked bad initially, and then he's getting helped into the tunnel. He didn't want the cart, and he's walking up the tunnel, and the cameras catch him walking up the tunnel, and he's limping and all that other stuff. So, yeah, it looked really, really bad. But later that night, you start hearing stuff that it's not as bad as they originally thought. So either he's got, like, some Wolverine thing going on there from the X-Men or maybe Deadpool. I'm not really sure how you want to work it. People around here are the fans around here are convinced he's a miracle worker or he's got some sort of tiger blood in him or something. I don't know. But, it's been interesting this week, that's for sure.
Well, it's appropriate because he was drafted to be a superhero, right? I mean, that's the idea when you land somebody like him is that that's what you're getting out of him. He's been largely great this year. After the fact that he survived that rookie year tells you a lot about him and the type of player he can be. As you've witnessed him now with the stability that comes with that operation, what are you seeing?
Yeah, you see the growth that you had hoped you would have seen going into year 2. You saw it, growing into year 3 just because obviously, essentially last year was his rookie season. He's got a head coach now that played the position, that understands what it takes to play the position in the NFL, and he's a very good offensive mind. So, he's still not where he needs to be, obviously. That's going to take time. Everybody just thinks, okay, well, the second year in a system, the guy's going to take off. And he has played really, really well for the most part this year. He was on his way to a phenomenal game against the Bengals, would have been the highest-rated passing game of his career before he got hurt. The thing that you just want to see him do is be a little bit more consistent at times, take care of the ball a little bit better in terms of fumbles, because he has had an issue with that. And, he's an aggressive thrower. I mean, he's going to try and fit the ball into some spots that maybe some other guys won't, and he has the arm strength and talent to do it. But there's also still, the times where it's like, hey, instead of trying to make that longer, deeper throw, take the check down and let's move the chains. That's, I think, a big area where he's going to, need to continue to grow. But, look, it's clear that this is the guy that they're building around, and this is the guy they feel like they can win a Super Bowl with. They're going to work on an extension with him in the offseason and see if they can get something done there. So everything's looking up here in Jacksonville, which is not something you could say around this franchise very often for the last 25 years.
Yeah, it's certainly, and it's a good collection of talent. The Kirk injury on Monday is a painful one, though. Of course, how will they try to play? Obviously, you got to move on. We've learned that up here with all the injuries we have. But he was somebody who was very stable for that offense.
Yeah, it'll be more Parker Washington, the rookie who kind of came in and subbed out for Kirk when Kirk got hurt the other night. And what you get with a rookie is you get good and bad. You get him making an unbelievable catch in the back of the end zone on a ball that Trevor Lawrence probably shouldn't have thrown, for a touchdown. But then you also get him running the wrong route, not reading the coverage correctly, and he's the reason Trevor Lawrence held on to the ball on the play he got hurt. He wanted to go to Parker Washington in the slot, who was, had a free release and was uncovered, and Washington never turned around. And Lawrence has to hold the ball, and then he gets stepped on by his left tackle, and, the ankle injury happened. So you kind of get a bunch of you have to rely on rookies. You're going to get some of that stuff there. But I also think that they'll move Evan Ingram around a lot more, put him in the slot a lot more, and see what he can give you there to create some matchup issues. But still, Ridley's on the outside. Zay Jones, they need him to be a little bit more productive going forward. Certainly, he's playing through a knee injury there, and he hasn't really looked like himself the last couple of weeks. So it's a big loss. Kirk was his guy. I mean, they're close off the field. He was the guy he trusted the most. So it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment in this offense. But, ETN's still there, and like I said, those other receivers there. And Ingram can be a real big problem for teams. So I think that's where they'll go more than anything else.
Now, I'll tell you this now. On a Thursday in the middle of the afternoon, acknowledge that this could change 7 times by the time we get to Sunday, because that's how our weather is here up on the lake. But it appears that it's going to be a rain into snow situation with some winds 10 miles sustained and then upwards of 25. If that is the case, and it's a sloppy track, a cold track, you look at some of the rushing stats. Can this offense be physical against one of the more physical defenses in the league?
They can, but they haven't done it consistently. And they may not have their starting left tackle, who is really their number 2 left tackle, and Walker Little. He's got a hamstring injury. They're not exactly the most physical group in the middle with the 2 guards in the center, Luke Fortner. Brandon Sheriff is a former All-Pro, but he's not anywhere close to the level that he was before, and he's playing hurt. One of their issues on offense has been short yardage and the ability to get push on the offensive line. So, they've been pretty good in pass protection the last 3 weeks, but, the run game has sort of sputtered a little bit. They're better when they try and run on the edge than they are when they're trying to run between the tackles. So what I think you'll see, too, are some wide receiver screens, some quick passes, which are essentially runs, and they'll try and make their hay in the ground game that way.
Defensively, this Jaguars outfit, 24th overall, 30th against the pass. We're obviously a mash unit offensively with Flacco likely going to be the starting quarterback this week, and Amari Cooper could be out and obviously played much of the year without Chubb and Jack Conklin, Jedrick Wills, so many starters out. I'm looking at some of the names on this, though, and it's kind of a college football who's who of former stars. Give me a little bit of a breakdown on what has happened defensively for this Jaguars outfit and maybe what hasn't.
When they've been rolling, they've been getting turnovers. They led the league in turnovers through the first month and a half of the season, and that's dried up a little bit. Their pass rush outside of Josh Allen has been just okay, nothing special. Foye Oluokun and Devin Lloyd, the linebackers, it's a huge difference in those two from last year to this year. Lloyd last year was so lost and got so confused over what he was seeing. He got benched 2 or 3 times. Oluokun still led the league in tackles, but had to spend a lot of his time trying to make sure that Lloyd was lined up correctly and knew what his keys were and knew where he was going. This year, he's been able to play a lot more free, and he's made some more big plays. He had a touchdown, a couple of weeks ago, so he's started to making the big plays that he basically admitted last year that I led the league in tackles, but I got to start making some more big plays. The secondary has been hit or miss. Yeah. To be honest with you, Andre Cisco has a tendency to get out of position at times. He was out of position last week on the long touchdown to Jamar Chase. Tyson Campbell has been battling a hamstring injury and now a quad injury, and he hasn't played at the same level he played last year. So if there's a weakness where you can attack, it's definitely that secondary. So, Joe Flacco has the time to get downfield. I think there'll be some plays for him to make.
All right, very good stuff there. And just one big picture one, Mike, just I'm always curious the business of it, and we could be having to do a new stadium up here in relatively short order. You keep reading things back and forth in terms of an eventual stadium down there in Jacksonville, a new stadium. Where are they with that, and how tricky, if all, is that process going?
They've had some meetings with the city and the city council members, to kind of discuss stuff. Their goal, the Jags' goal, is to have something sort of at least frameworked in time to take to the owners' meetings in March, and then to be able to present a full deal at the ones in May. So,
okay.
I don't know if that's realistic, but, there's a lot of stuff that still has to be worked out. Where are they going to play? The new mayor doesn't want the team not playing in Jacksonville for a year, or for 2 years. So is there a way to do this with renovations, with only them missing 1 year here? So there's a lot of moving parts to kind of still figure out. But there's optimism on both sides that they'll get something done. And in reality, if the city doesn't come to an agreement with the Jaguars, then I'm not sure the Jaguars are going to be here beyond 24, 25. That'll be something that they'll really have to seriously look at, because this stadium is, it's had some minor renovations since it opened in '95, but anyone who's spent any time walking in the bowels of a stadium that needs a lot of work, you can smell it, you can see it, and that's where they are with this franchise.
I was there a long time ago for a Florida-Georgia game in like 05, 06. I remember it certainly well. Been to Jaguars games there. It's been a while, so certainly will be something to watch there, and that's an interesting timeline with 24, 25. Mike, safe travels up here. Thank you so much for your time and for giving us a little bit of it today.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks a lot.
All right, that's Mike Duraco on the Twisted Tea hotline, ESPN NFL Nations reporter for Jacksonville, behind enemy lines here on Cleveland Browns Daily. Tyvis Powell is going to join us coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Pet Supplies Plus give you a chance to win tickets to home games all season long while providing the best deals for your pet at over 75 stores throughout Ohio. Enter to win .com/Pet Supplies Plus and receive a coupon to use at your local store with your entry. Pet Supplies Plus is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. All right, let's head out on the Twisted Tea hotline. Let me ask you something, Mr. Powell. How long do I get to go through all the accolades with you? Every time I got to bring you on, there's 17 things I got to mention. We got to talk about national championship game MVP, host of 75 shows. At some point, can it just be Tyvis Powell on the Twisted Tea hotline? Like, everyone knows who you are.
Well, it depends on what platform we're on. But today I'll go for this is Tyvis Powell, who you can catch him on the Browns pre- and post-game show where he does a great job analyzing the game. That sounds really good.
That is a good job. You do a good job analyzing the game. Hey man, this is a two-game, kind of almost felt like a 2-week road trip, right? Because the team stayed out there in Los Angeles. Neither one goes the way that you want it to. You come back licking some wounds at 7-5, but oddly, because of the way Flacco played, buddy, I kind of feel pretty good about this stretch run this team could go on. How about you?
I feel the exact same way, and I think everybody feels that way. One thing about Joe Flacco is that he was a vet. He shows you that he still can make all of those throws. And I like the calmness. It's like when he was out there, it seemed like everybody was calm. He was the mature. He was the adult. Over the course of the game, things go up and down over the course of the game, but you need a guy that's going to be steady. And that's what he was. He had a good head on his shoulder, made all the throws that you want your quarterback to make. It makes it very bright looking forward.
Yeah, I use the word professional. It was like, oh, this is a pro. Okay, I got this. And that isn't to say that PJ wasn't or that DTR wasn't, that just the lack of experience that those two guys have in comparison to a guy that essentially has a master's degree in football.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the way DTR.
What do we got going on here? You got kids running amok?
No, I just stepped on my dog. I just stepped on my dog. I am so sorry.
Did you apologize?
Anyway, I apologize to the dog, yes. DTR, good. Yeah, he's young. He's a young guy in there, and you don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, he got probably the highest ceiling. With Joe Flacco, yes, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get like you said, professional in the room. But DTR, it's that factor of, man, he can do this. If he can get this game down, he can beat this. And on top of all of that, Bo, when you look past this season, he is the guy that's going to be here. Joe Flacco, he'll probably play these last games, and next year he'll be gone. But DTR is the guy that you'll have on your roster. So I understand why they will want to get him those reps. So if this situation with the quarterback thing happens again in the future, you got a guy that you're comfortable going in the game getting things done.
Tyus, the other thing that I think was apparent with Joe is Kevin is very comfortable with calling the plays that Joe likes because they're the plays Kevin likes. Under center, play action. I mean, this is kind of that's what he did in Minnesota. He did that some with Baker, but it's very clear that Stefanski likes. And that maybe Stefanski and Flacco see it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, that's when this whole offseason we heard about how this playbook is totally different with Deshaun in there. And, it's some push and pull on that. Obviously you're going away from some of the things that make Kevin Stefanski unique. What made him so unique is being able to run the ball effectively and then hitting you with that play action and hitting that over route off of that. That was special. That was something that gave defenses fits. And you go to Deshaun, who likes to go 5 wide. It kind of takes that aspect out of it. You getting Joe Flacco in there, a guy who's not mobile like that, a guy who knows how to go through his read, a guy that's all about timing. I mean, think about that 3rd and 14 at the beginning of the game. He hits Amari Cooper. Before Amari Cooper even comes out of his break, the ball is where it's supposed to be. That's all timing. And that's when it's special because you can run play action, get those linebackers to bite up, and then your receiver's going to run a 7-step bang, 8, boom. You put that ball right on the inside, and it's there every single time. That's what those play actions, that's that Kevin Stefanski style of offense that he likes to run. And Joe did a unbelievable job coming in off the couch, as people would say, and being able to make some of these throws. I mean, Bo, it was a lot of throws he threw in tight windows, and he was getting them. And he doesn't even have chemistry with these guys. He's been there for, 2 weeks? And he's able to have timing and chemistry down. I mean, that's this is something special that you want to happen if you're going to go find a veteran quarterback in the mid of the season like this.
Oh, it's a gift from the football gods is what it is if this can work out this way, because I mean the idea that these guys are just sitting on the streets, it's amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine if the Jets would have signed him, and he said that he called him when the Rodgers thing happened, like their entire season's different if they just had a steady hand at quarterback. And that gets back to, a pretty simple question for us. We sit here at 7-5. Zagura and I kind of feel like 10's the number. If you get to 10, you're going to find yourself in the postseason. We'll get to the defense in a second, but offensively, what do you think is the best plan of attack to get to 10?
Well, I think that when they were successful, even with Deshaun in and out of the lineup, the one thing that was constant after that bye week was the run game. They was able to run the ball. Yeah. I think they was getting 150, 160 yards. For these last couple of games, we haven't really been hitting those numbers. And, don't get me wrong. I know Kevin Stefanski likes to pass to open up the run. But I think at some point, like Denver, you're going up against one of the worst rush defenses in there. Let's attack them. We had, I think Jerome Ford had like 9 carries for 80 yards or something like that. So keep attacking the run game if it's there. This week, I think Jaguars is actually pretty good. I think they're 6th against the run, and they're not good against the pass, ironically. Right. But yep. I think that you have to do what your strength is. This Cleveland Browns team since '99 has always been a run-first team. We run the ball and open things up that way. And I think Jerome Ford shows you some things that he can get it done in the run game. This offense showed you they can get it done in the run game. I think you got to ride that and open up the play action. Now that you got Joe Flacco in, I think you got to flip your mindset a little bit. Maybe with Deshaun and DTR, mobile guys, they can scramble around and extend plays with their legs so the pass game does open up for the run. But now that you got a quarterback that's a traditional quarterback back there, you got to go back to running that football to open things up, because he shows you he got the arm to fit it in tight windows. Imagine what he can do if he gets those linebackers to bite on that run and all the space that his receivers will have.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And as we flip it to the other side, I was having conversations with people the last couple of weeks, and it's like, boy, what's wrong with the Browns defense? And I'm like, well, let's start with Miles is playing with one arm, and we didn't have Denzel Ward. So, when you lose an all-pro corner, there's a butterfly effect to that. And when Miles is just not all the way what we're used to from Miles, that's a part of it as well. Despite those 2 injuries, were there any red flags for you with what you saw defensively the last 2 weeks?
Obviously, in the Denver game, the run game was unbelievable. I mean, you know what it is, though? It's really we're going up against these veteran quarterbacks that have a ton of experience. So these guys, and you're going up against 2 offensive-minded coaches, Sean Payton and McVay. I mean, come on now, 2 of the best offensive minds of our era. You're going up against these guys, and these veteran quarterbacks are able to come to the line of scrimmage, and they're able to see things, and they're able to make calls and checks to get them in the play that's going to work the most. I mean, Russell Wilson did an unbelievable job killing us with that trap. I don't think that was something that was called off the sideline. I think he saw it, got them in that play, and it was very effective. And he obviously he was effective with his legs. So the run game against Denver was what was the killer. Last week, listen, Puka is we knew we've been watching Puka all this season, and we talked about how special this kid is. Although he's a rookie, this kid is special. And, he kind of, for the last couple of weeks, he might have not had those big games and those big numbers, but he's still a guy that you have to worry about. Cooper Kupp is kind of, he's battling injury, so he's not the same. Puka went crazy. He did a really good job. The first 70-yard touchdown, we're in inverted cover 2, which is instead of the safeties playing the half, you got the corners playing the half, and you got linebackers and safeties. I think they had Juan Thornhill blitzing off of an edge. They had the nickel going to the flats on the other side, and the linebacker playing the flats on the other side. You always have a middle run-through guy, which is the middle linebacker on that. He goes 3, and he got to run with 3 verticals. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened to be Puka on this play. Matt Stafford, even though he was kind of step for step with him, Matt Stafford threw it absolutely dumb, dropped it right in the bucket to Puka, and he was able to just go. So that's just part of the game. They caught us in the bad coverage, and like I say, when you're dealing with a veteran quarterback, he's able to understand it's a linebacker on my best wide receiver in this play. I'm going to just throw the ball and give him a chance, and Puka made some plays. So, we got to get that pass defense got to be back, but outside of Miles, somebody has to make some plays. You know, you go out there and you get these Zadarius Smiths, the Dalvin Tomlinson, the Double O. At the beginning of these guys were electric. You know, they got TFLs, they was getting sacks, and all of those things. And as of lately, we haven't really gotten that same production out of these guys. And, you know, if Miles is still going to get this attention, these guys got to start winning the one-on-one. I'm hoping now that we back at home, because we play really well at home, I'm hoping that that's what we need to get these guys to get some more energy to them, to get to that quarterback. Whether it's CJ or whether it's Trevor Lawrence, you know, that ball's going to come out. Get your hands up, knock those balls down. That really helps. But if he's holding it, now that you got Denzel back, you should get a lot more coverage sacks.
In mentioning Denzel, he was asked in his availability earlier today if this is the best that he's been as a pro. I think that it is. I think he's like an all-pro level corner at the moment. I've always said for the last couple of years been the best mirror corner in the league. What are you seeing from him, and do you agree? Do you think this is the best that he's played, and what type of a boost will he give this defense being back on Sunday?
I think this is the best Denzel has played this year, because this is the most confident I've ever seen Denzel. I mean, when I say confident, I mean he got some swag to himself this year. I mean, the dance that he do, they're playing the guitar, rocking out, like he got some stuff to him. He knows deep. It's like he knew deep down that he was good. But he's wearing it on his shoulder. He's not afraid to go out there against your number one and show you why he should be all-pro this season. And this is the first time that I've seen him like that. And I have to credit Jim Schwartz. You know, obviously, you know, in the past they did a mix of running man and zone, and you know sometimes in zone he doesn't do his best. But this year they were specialized in playing man-to-man, press man-to-man. And Denzel is just, like we said it at Ohio State when he was a freshman. We would be like, he makes some plays, and we'd be like, the kid is just gifted. You know, he's just physically gifted. And some of the things he's doing, I think this is one of the best weeks for him to come back, because if you got him matched up on Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver who runs some really good routes. I mean, we've seen videos of him this offseason running routes versus Zay Jones. And this man has the ability to drop and stop on a dime. And if you're a corner, you know, that's one of your biggest questions. Can you drop your hips? Can you match the level of the wide receiver? And, you know, with Martin Emerson being a taller corner, that's always the thing with a tall corner. Can he drop his hips? You know, Genu plays in the slot. Is he quick enough? But Denzel can match the intensity and the hip drop of Calvin Ridley and get in and out of his breaks the same way. So it's actually going to be a really good matchup right there. I think the biggest X factor in this game, the matchup that I'm watching the most, Bo, Grant Delpit versus Evan Ingram. I think that's the one. No matter who the quarterback is, Evan Ingram is the guy that they look for. I mean, last game he had 9 targets. He led the team in catches, I should say. They use him he's not a blocking tight end. He's like how in college you run the spread and you got that tight end that's out there in space. If Grant Delpit can stop that guy, because if Trevor Lawrence plays or not, it's going to be a lot of quick game. It's going to be a lot. And he specializes in running this drag route because he's a big body guy and he's pretty fast. If you can stop him and make them look away from him and have to go through another progression, that buys your defensive line time. And Grant Delpit has had some moments. At the beginning of this year, he was playing at an elite level. It's kind of tailored off a little bit. He's got to find that again, because obviously it's a contract year. He wants to get paid this season. So how do you get paid? You go down there, you find a guy who's a key contributor to their offense, and you shut them down. So I'm putting my eye on him this week.
It's a huge game. It really is. But Lawrence is playing. He hasn't missed a snap since he's been a rookie. I think I know that they'll probably play some gamesmanship with it, my friend, but I think you're going to see 16 on Sunday. Speaking of gamesmanship, you always have it, buddy. Great talking to you. I'm sorry that the dog was wounded in this. Hopefully it's nothing serious, and everyone's able to have a good rest of your day.
He's a warrior, Bo. He's fine.
He's a warrior,
ready
just
to
like his
hug
dad.
up and jump on me now. There we go. It was nice talking to you, Bo. Go Browns.
All right, there's Tyvis Powell. You can hear him as a Brown analyst joining on every single Sunday. Great job out of him, good friend, and one of the bright talents in the media business. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, hopefully tomorrow you get a little bit more certainty, although I think you certainly know where the lean is at the quarterback position for the Browns. Will be Joe Flacco most likely on Sunday. Nothing from any coaches, nothing from any players, but just common sense and connecting the dots. It feels like that's the way that it's going to go. Dorian Thompson-Robinson remains concussion protocol, though he did practice and has practiced both days this week. Talked to Alex Van Pelt earlier. Seems like you're looking at a one more kind of step he needs to take in the process. Coop's still in concussion protocol as well, but there is some good news, and that is that Denzel Ward has been back the last 2 days. We heard from him today on the program. He sounds motivated and ready to play Sunday against Jacksonville. On the Jacksonville side of things, Trevor Lawrence, I'd bet the house that he plays. I cannot imagine a scenario that he doesn't. He was a limited practice guy today down in Jacksonville. You have Thursday Night Football tonight. New England at Pittsburgh. Yeesh. I think it feels like Steelers. I mean, I hate even doing this on this show, but it feels like Steelers by $1 billion to me is the way that this thing feels. All right, the next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.